Fiance Life at Home. I'm one of your hosts, and we're going to try to keep Charlie awake today, Miss Mary Jane. He's looking a little tired. Goodness. How are you this morning?
Oh, very well, thank you. But Charlie looks like he just perked up when he realized the show was starting. There he is, all in his grandeur.
Oh my goodness. Yes, it's a bit of a scramble this morning at our house, but you know, life is always exciting, isn't it?
Well, it is. And before we get into deep conversation, there's something really important that I wanted to mention. And that is, as you know, our lives here are pretty stable, but overseas in Ukraine, things are not so stable. And there is a medical team leaving for Poland to assist with the Ukraine refugees in Poland, and they're from Grey Bruce. And so I really wanted to mention a safe travels to the Canadian volunteer-led medical aid mission, and that's Christine Moffat, Tally Grandjean, Dr. Troyan, and Sherry Chambers, and they're all from various parts of Grey and Bruce counties, heading overseas to relieve some of the medical teams that are exhausted over there, and wishing them safe travels.
Yeah, pretty amazing to have somebody from our own community going to such a length to be volunteers and to do something really, really special. It's, yeah, pretty impressive, isn't it? It's inspiring.
Well, and courageous, because they know they're going into an area of conflict, not so much in Poland, but you never know when things are going to escalate. But Dr. Troyan, her father lives in Kyiv, so there's that connection.
Yeah, pretty inspiring for sure. You know, we certainly, it's funny, you know, for me personally, and I think for lots of people in our area, not having any connections, direct connections to anybody overseas, whether, or out west when there's a fire, or, you know, there's a flood in New Orleans, or all of these things, you know, it really doesn't touch us, or even the war, you know. There have been terrible, terrible things happening overseas for as long as I can remember, and before that. And, you know, we live in a pretty nice little bubble here until COVID came along and, you know, kind of wreaked havoc on all of our lives directly. But, you know, when it's somebody close to us or in our community that has a direct link like that, it certainly serves to bring it into something that's a little more directly felt by us as neighbors. So it's, as I say, it is inspiring.
Well, it is, and a lot of credit to them. The other thing too is that for folks who are staying tuned in to some of the events with the Ukraine war, and of course, just coming out of the pandemic itself, is that we have seen an increase in mental health issues. And I know that I need to be careful about what I'm watching on the news or for how long I'm watching it, and to make sure that I step outside and do some yard work or something to keep a balance. Because Mental Health Week is coming up, May 2nd to the 8th. And there is an event going on in Hanover with a connection between the Mental Health Association and Playtime in Hanover. Get real about how you can get help, and I think that's really important. They're going to have a barbecue and a silent auction from 2 to 5, and I think it's important that with Mental Health Week coming up, that we all do something to support each other, and it's all about listening, support, and empathy.
Yeah, is it ever? Having compassion for what other people are going through, because just because you're having a good day, or you know, yeah, just because you're having a good day doesn't mean that the person next to you is. And maybe they're struggling a little more today than they did yesterday, and vice versa. I mean, we have our moments, don't we? Yes, we most definitely do. It's funny, I did 2 meetings yesterday that, they just happened to be on the same day. But boy, we're doing in-person board meetings for the concert choir, the Georgian Bay Concert Choir now. Boy, it's such a treat to be able to, even though I wear my mask during my meetings and everybody in my meeting, and it's just so nice to feel like we're doing something that's somewhat normal. And the Kemble Women's Institute, we had our first meeting of the year, and it was so nice to have that fellowship with the ladies of the Institute, and making plans for this year.
Well, I think
to be normal.
Yes, it's so important, to balance things out. But just another highlight around Earth Day, because we talked about it last week on the show, and this is going to be beautiful. And that's the film festival, the Bruce Gray Butterflies and the Flight of the Butterflies. Now, how happy can that possibly make you? So on Thursday, May the 19th at the Roxy, these 2 films are going to be shown, and at 7 o'clock, and then at 6 o'clock is a silent auction. But really, I'm sure when you watch films about butterflies, I mean, that just lifts your spirits.
Boy, does it ever. Yeah, absolutely. Well, we are into almost May here. In fact, I don't know if I think next week is still April, but spring is on the way, people. Snow notwithstanding, spring is on the way, warm weather, sunshine, gardening, and lots more Grey County life at home. And we've got actually a really fabulous show lined up for today. So I'm looking forward to these guests. And hopefully Charlie will manage to stay awake for the whole show. I don't know what's going on. But we will be back after these messages with more Grey County life at home.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
It's about sharing and caring. It's about doing and belonging. It's about living life to its fullest. And it's about laughing out loud. We are L'Arche Canada, and we're about witnessing and sharing the gifts of all people. Learn more about us today.
As the fighting continues in Ukraine, thousands of people are fleeing for their lives, forced to leave everything behind. You can help them. Your donation to the Humanitarian Coalition will provide food, water, shelter, and medical care to the people of Ukraine who urgently need it. Call 1-855-461-2154 or donate online today at together.ca. That's together.ca. The Humanitarian Coalition. Together, saving more lives.
Don't forget to tune in to Grey County Life at Home next week.
We'll have a conversation with the Honorable Dr. Jean Augustine.
Welcome back to Grey County Life at Home. Who is our first guest, Miss Mary Jane?
Well, we have one of our frequent flyers again, and it's always a pleasure to hear the information that's going on at the Roxy Theater with the Owen Sound Litle Theater as well. And we have Marcia Cunningham, who is the executive director, and we have Kevin Haxel, who is the director of the upcoming play, and J.C. Coots, who is the romantic lead, and they're going to be talking about the play Born Yesterday. So welcome, Marcia. So give us some basic details that our viewers need to know if they're going to be attending the show.
Great. I'll get the business stuff out of the way and let Kevin and JC talk about the fun stuff. So first of all, I do want to thank our sponsors. We've got great season sponsors, the Litle family, Brand Realty, and Tamming Law. And this show specifically was sponsored by Trudy Moyse, Val and John Pretty, Taylor Electric, Quick Print, and Folex Instant Carpet Spot Remover. So the show opens on April 21st, which is this Thursday, Thursday. It's the 21st, 22nd, and 23rd, 27th, 28th, 29th, and 30th. And it's a 7:30 show. Tickets are on sale at the website, roxytheatre.ca, or by calling our box office. And the one point I want to mention is that the Roxy Theatre has maintained a couple of COVID protocols. So we have a masking mandate, and we're also asking to see proof of vaccination and corresponding ID upon entry.
I appreciate the protocol because I know that all of us want to be free and easy and back to, 2019 in all that we do. However, we're still not quite out of the woods yet. And I think it's really important. When I wear a mask, I'm thinking about the other people that are around me. I want to protect them. It's for their safety as well as mine. So I appreciate the Roxy Theatre taking that into consideration. And we are into the 6th wave, whoever thought that would ever happen.
I know. We've also got a socially distanced seating plan, which a lot of our patrons really appreciate. And that is that there's one empty seat between ticket groups. And so you're never going to be quite shoulder to shoulder with anyone who you didn't choose to come to the theater with. So that's nice as well right now for some people.
Yeah. That's comforting. Okay, so now let's find out about the play itself, because there's some interesting history around this play. So Kevin, you're the director. Tell us about the challenge and the pleasure and the joy of directing a play, or choosing a play to start with.
Well, choosing the play was quite simple, because I actually decided I wanted to direct another play as I was directing Noises Off back in 2018. It was a very funny play.
It was. I saw it.
Well, thank you. Good. Yeah, but I wanted to do a comedy that also had some meaning, sort of some discussion of issues that are relevant today. So I went through my old programs, because I always keep programs, and I saw Born Yesterday at the Shaw Festival 2009. It was a wonderful production. I read the play again and I thought, this has aged very well. It's got tremendous potential for comedic business. But on top of that, it discusses things that are relevant today, political corruption, the bully in politics. And quite frankly, it also discusses abuse, spousal abuse. And so I wanted to deal with a play that wasn't just funny, but that would leave the author happy, hopefully, with our production, but also leave the audience thinking just how much has changed in the 75 years since it was written. It premiered back in 1946 on Broadway, and at the time actually set a record for the longest running non-musical in Broadway history. It's still the 7th longest running non-musical in Broadway history, which is a testament to just how well written it is, how funny it is, and how relevant it is.
Well, I picked up this quote that said that when the play was written, it was a fable. However, after Watergate, it became a documentary.
Very much so. And quite frankly, there are lines in it that resonate today. For example, one of my favorite lines is, "A world full of ignorant people is too dangerous to live in." And so really, it's a story, getting back to the plot, it's a story about the education of its lead, Billy, and what education provides her in terms of knowledge about what her boyfriend, Harry Brock, is actually doing in Washington. And of course, JC can talk a little bit more about what happens, because he is playing a character that educates Billy. And through the process of educating her, he falls in love with her and she with him, which of course complicates matters all the more.
Well, we like complication in a play. However, JC, how does the romantic lead tie into all of this?
I think it kind of happens naturally in the play, and you'll see that there's moments that they share, just little moments on stage together, where that kind of spark is lit between the two of them. It's very odd for me to be in something where it's a romantic lead, because that's not really who I am. So that's a bit of a challenge, but it's a lot of fun too, and it really, when you see it on stage, it's very sweet, and it's very against everything else that's going on. It's kind of a really nice light in a lot of chaos and a lot of anger too that comes out of Tom, who plays Harry in this. So it's a really nice contradiction to everything else that's going on, all the other themes in this play.
Just an aside, something that you mentioned, that playing the romantic lead is not natural to your character. Are you picking up any tips that you can take from the show and use into your real life?
Be careful, JC.
Yes, JC.
Definitely, yeah. I would say there's a few there. There's a few tips and a few things from Paul that I can take and learn about, and there's a little bit of me too that just naturally is Paul as well. Like for example, part of what drew me to this role is the fact that it does deal with American politics, which is something I've always been very interested in, and I've always been an American political junkie. So to get to do something that it's a much different year, much different period of what I am interested in, but it's a lot of the dialogue and everything I'm familiar with, like, you know, Supreme Court and all of that. Like that's just stuff that I know. So it's really cool it's made that part of it a lot easier, I guess, to transition to something brand new, having never acted or been on stage or done anything really in theater. So
This is your first show?
This is JC's first show ever.
And it's a romantic lead. I'd say, JC, you may be getting typecast here. It just depends on how it goes.
In all fairness, when the audition came up, I did not know that there was kissing involved in this play, and that might have stopped me from signing up. So it probably is. It's a happy thing, a happy mistake that I didn't know that going into this.
How? That must have been. I hope we haven't just lost him.
Oh, we just lost him.
Yeah,
oh,
we'll be
goodness.
Just lost JC. Oh no. Well, let me tell you a little bit about JC. I cast him because he brings an incredible warmth to the character. And it's true, he hasn't acted before, but he has worked so hard to find truth in what he says and how he moves, that it's an absolutely wonderful performance to watch. I'm so proud of him, having never acted before, taking on a very large role. And it's not an easy role, particularly given that we had to rehearse with masks on. We did not take our masks off the actors until Monday, 2 days ago. So they've only had 2 performances where they actually see what the character, the expression across. So you can imagine poor JC and Connie Rossiter, who plays Billy, the 2 of them having to kiss with masks on, all right, for safety's sake, because obviously we don't want COVID throughout the cast, which would definitely cause an issue or 2.
Yeah. Wow, I'm so excited about that, to see somebody, I'm sure I've seen people that it was their first show, but knowing it ahead of time it's quite interesting because I think you'll inspire lots of people, JC, to get out there and go for it, you know, whether it's scary or not.
Well, yeah, you know what? I hope so, because it is a lot of fun, and I've always had a great appreciation for theater and for movies and television, and to finally get to be part of it and the process involved, and see everything that goes on behind the scenes, all the people that are needed, all the talent and the creativity, and the Owen Sound Little Theater is just amazing with the people that we have, the volunteers, some of whom are new faces in this production like me, some of whom have been around for 30, 40 years working with this company. So they are the nicest people in the world. They are the most welcoming. They've made a rookie like me feel totally comfortable the entire process. So, I mean, luckily my television and radio background has helped me a lot through this. Especially for a role that I think is pretty big for a beginner. But I mean, there are so many roles, and you can start small, and it doesn't even have to be on the stage. You can start in the booth or behind the scenes. So it's definitely well worth the experience. And just get to the website, the Roxy Theater's website, check it out, get the information. You can become a member online. It's super easy, and I'm already excited for the next production, whatever it ends up being. We'll get through this one first. Maybe something bad will happen. Maybe I'll fall off the stage, and that'll end my want to be a part of this. But for right now, everything's been amazing. So I'm really excited to have hopefully a long career with the Owen Sound Little Theater.
Great. Kevin, can you talk briefly? Do we have a second that you can talk about the signature cocktail that has been created for the show?
Indeed, we wanted to add a little bit of flair to what's on stage. Obviously, we've got an amazing set, beautiful lighting, costumes, makeup. And so we decided, well, let's put something at the bar. So my wife, the producer, Sandy Holland, came up with a cocktail that we're going to call the Born Yesterday. It's rye-based with lots of fruit juices. And it's being sold in a Born Yesterday cup that you can take home, obviously, and bring back to the theater if you want to come to a future production. And because you have that cup, just as in the case of having a Roxy cup, you get $1 off your next beverage or future beverages. Mm-hmm. So we are encouraging people to treat themselves to a Born Yesterday during the intermission.
Well, I like the idea of a pairing. This was something Rhonda and I started way back in 2020 when we started doing Great County Life at Home. We always had a pairing going on. Now that we are well into this season with our guests, and so many guests, we've left the pairing behind. But that's a really great idea.
Good. But I, got to give Marcia some credit here too, because she is finding Roxy merchandise for everybody to enjoy now and in the future. Maybe Marcia, you can talk a little bit more about what we can offer everybody involved, and of course patrons and audience members in terms of Roxy Memorabilia.
Yeah, we've got a selection of items on the website. The wine tumbler that Kevin mentioned that has the Roxy logo, and then it has the Born Yesterday logo. We've got a tall, we call it the tall skinny. We've got masks, we've got t-shirts, and so a big selection of coffee cups. And so we're always looking for new ideas and fun ideas, and it's been really fun working with Sandy on this idea and designing the cup, and hope to see it in lots of people's hands this over the next couple of weeks.
Now, one thing, Marcia, you and I talked about briefly just before the show was that National Volunteer Week was coming up, and you wanted to do a shout out to your volunteers.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, the OSLT and the Roxy Theater wouldn't be without all of our volunteers. And so we, as JC mentioned, an incredible group of people here at the Owen Sound Little Theater, an amazing board of directors, but also everybody. There are so many people who are involved in making this this organization happen. And so we're really grateful to everybody who participates here at the Roxy Theatre. And as JC mentioned, there are opportunities to get involved in large and smaller ways. There's so many opportunities here. So it's really just depends on how someone wants to get involved. We're so grateful to our front of house staff. Like all of the people that when you come as a guest, everyone that you see and interact with is a volunteer, unless I happen to be working that night, or one of the other staff members of the box office person is also paid. But other than that, everybody involved here is a volunteer.
And indeed, in Born yesterday, we had 11 volunteers building the set. We had 7 painters. And it goes on. So whatever your passion is, or what you think might be your passion, you would have an opportunity to explore it with us in any particular production. Every production needs, as JC was saying, tremendous help in putting together all the elements of the production.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one of the things I have understood from previous conversations is that everyone gets a chance to do everything. You might be designing a set for one play, but you might be a lead in the next, or you might be on the board and you might be doing costumes and things like that. So people get to have an experience with all the different aspects of theater.
That's right. You don't have to be an experienced costumer. You can start helping out someone who's got some experience. For example, I have a assistant director who has not directed a main stage production yet, but wants to. And so I'm mentoring her in terms of what it is to direct, everything you need to look at. The same thing is true, actually, in the case of my wife, who's producing for the first time. She's stage managed before, but she's thought, well, rather than have to be a stage manager at every rehearsal, I'll produce and I'll find the people that you need. So she is being mentored by Jane Phillips, who has produced before. So everybody helps everybody out in exploring what they would like to do next.
Well, I think that is a fantastic kickoff to our volunteer week. And we're really looking forward to getting down to the Roxy. First of all, to see JC in his breakout role here and to try the signature cocktail. Cannot wait to get down there. Thank you so much for coming today to share with us the new production at the.
My name is John Cherry, and I volunteer at Rogers TV. I was a sportsman, and in certain ways, I love all sports. Well, since I'm on a camera named Camera 2, which is a close-up shot, I definitely love some unique plays and unique shot when it works out, and of course the producer takes it, especially that. There is a lot of fans in the seats, and a lot of those fans know me, and I know them, and we have a nice communication between us. The amount of time that you put into it, it's very rewarding. And not only that, but you learn, always a learning curve. You learn many, many things. And it's a life experience,
I'm Colby Barlow. I'm a right winger with the Owen Sound Attack. Get great OHL action on Rogers TV as we bring you Owen Sound Attack games live, both home and away.
And welcome back to Grey County Life at Home. And in the spirit of volunteers, Mary Jane, who is our next guest?
Well, we're pleased to have Kim Mcfaul, who is the manager and volunteer of resources at the Grey Bruce Health Services, because our hospitals within our community rely so heavily on volunteers. But really, also, it's National Volunteer Week coming up on the 25th to the 29th. And Kim is a leader with the volunteer movement in our community. And so, Kim, tell us about your volunteer program at the hospital.
Sure. Well, we have about 750 volunteers throughout the 6 sites. So GBHS consists of Lions Head, Wyerton, Markdale, Meaford, Owen Sound, and Southampton. So with those 6 sites, we have 750-ish volunteers, give or take. Our average age is about 74. Our oldest volunteer is 93 and our youngest is 14. 14 is the youngest that we will allow volunteers to start. Our volunteers do a lot of things throughout the hospital, whether it's in day surgery or emergency, ambulatory care, just helping the patients and the visitors just to give them a better experience, and just being there to listen and help them out to find their way. And then we have our fundraising volunteers as well, and they do all different things throughout the year, whether it's plant sales or bake sales, Christmas bazaars, to raise money for capital equipment.
I have to say, did you say 94?
Yes.
Wow, my goodness. I pray that when 94 that I am able to volunteer for anything, let alone leave my house. But, you know, to me, it makes me think of the idea that lots of people, they're busy, they're go-getters, they work, you know, a full-time job. They come to retirement age and they're just kind of, oh, now what? And a lot of people, when they don't have something to focus on or to direct their energies, they kind of slide downhill pretty fast. I would think that this is a great way to not have that happen.
It definitely is. And they say that volunteering is good for your health. And if you keep moving, then you're going to keep moving.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, not only, I mean, you gave a long list of the volunteers, but I also noticed that you have a fabulous gift shop. And I believe there are volunteers that run the gift shop too. And a very, very kind volunteer. When I put my ticket in to get out of the parking lot, the machine ate it. And I had to track down a volunteer to help me get out of the parking lot.
Yeah, that's another role. We have many roles. I just kind of touched on a few of them, but there's a lot of roles throughout the hospital that our volunteers help out with, including the gift shops. And then we have a Pennywise in the Markdale Hospital as well. So yeah, there's a lot of opportunities depending on what people like to do.
Sorry, what's Pennywise, Kim?
It's not new things. It's used things that people have donated, and then the Pennywise sells those things, and then we get the money for capital equipment.
Yeah. Oh, that's a fabulous idea. If you had the space, I guess all of the hospitals would want to do something like that.
Right. Definitely.
Yeah.
So I know that the hospital always celebrates National Volunteer Week because it is a highlight for many organizations, and it's a highlight week to really celebrate volunteers. So why is celebrating National Volunteer Week so important?
Well, volunteers are invaluable in many organizations, and we wouldn't be able to serve our communities in the capacity that we do if it wasn't for them. they change the lives of many people in many different ways. So it's important to let them know how much we appreciate all that they do, and all their efforts don't go unnoticed. They lend their time, their talent, their voice. So we need to say thank you. Thank you for what you have done for us all year long. And Volunteer Week is also a great time to let the local community learn about volunteer opportunities in their neighborhoods, and then it'll spark some interest for new volunteers.
Well, Mary Jane and I we've always talked about volunteering and how if you're new to a community, one of the best ways to get into some friendships and fellowships with other people of the community is to do some volunteer work, because you're going to meet some really great people that are out there of a like mind.
I found this quote, and it said, volunteering is empathy in action. And when you see the smiles on the volunteer faces, particularly in a hospital setting, it's quite comforting.
It definitely is. Just giving that extra ear or hand of support. It definitely, the patients and the visitors enjoy chatting with the volunteers. They have a lot of time to give, and it makes it a better experience overall for everybody.
Well, you think sometimes that the volunteer is getting more joy out of the experience than the person they're helping. Yeah.
That definitely can happen.
So I have another little quote that I picked up. It's the human connection is at the heart of healthier individuals and stronger communities, because you get to see the world through different eyes.
Right. Yeah, you definitely do. And people, yeah, just seeing it through different eyes, and like, you don't know what's going on with people, and the volunteers they're always there, no matter what's going on in your life. They can just give you that helping hand and that smile and make you feel better, because people are nervous when they're coming into the hospital.
Were volunteers permitted during COVID, during the lockdowns and things? Were you limited with the roles that they could play during COVID?
There was a short stint where we didn't have volunteers. It was about 4 to 5 months when COVID first started. And then they were classified as essential, and they were allowed to come back into our hospitals. I would say 80 to 85% of my volunteers returned, and the dedication that they showed, they wanted to help us out in COVID. It was amazing. They came in and wore their PPE like they were told to, and asked for extra shifts because they weren't doing some of their other activities like curling or lawn bowling or playing cards. Those were all shut down. So they were looking for something to do, extracurricular, to get out of the house and make a difference and help their local hospital when we were going through, and still are, through a pandemic.
Yeah. Well, doesn't that really, I mean, the fact that they were classified as essential, we all knew that, you know, and that just really puts the rubber stamp on it that, yeah, we need these guys so desperately in our hospital situations. Mm-hmm. Wow.
So are you in need of volunteers? You mentioned, you know, over 700 already, but are you always looking for new volunteers?
We are. It's always fluctuating. You know, volunteers come and go. Now our average volunteer stays for 11 years, but people get ill or they move away. And they can't volunteer anymore. So we're always looking for new people. And through COVID, we did lose a few volunteers that aren't coming back. So we are definitely looking for some people in some areas, and all of that information can be found on our website with an application for people to apply. And usually our volunteers work about a 4-hour shift once a week. And we try to get them on the same day of the week. So you know that every Tuesday morning you're volunteering, and they like that. So it's some structure.
So your youngest age is 14, but you don't actually have an oldest age. That just goes on the volunteer and their energy level and their need to get out. But what kind of training do you offer once they filled out the application and submitted it to you? They meet the basic criteria. What kind of training is there available?
Well, they go through an orientation process just to get to know about the hospital and our different areas and what might happen when you're here. And we talk about recognition and infection control and whatnot. And then after that piece, then you would get hooked up with another volunteer to have official training in the area in which you're going to volunteer. So people aren't just expected to go into a certain area without knowing what to do. So it's nice that another volunteer does the training.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Well, after 11 years experience, they would know their section and their duties, pretty well. But that buddy system is also very comforting for new volunteers.
It is, and I just had a new volunteer start this morning, and she's training with somebody that's been here for 25 years. So she definitely knows what she's doing.
And quite likely we'll strike up a new friendship, which is awfully nice.
That happens a lot. I know a lot of my volunteers that see each other outside of the hospital environment and go golfing, go for coffee, and it's great to see that connection.
Question, do volunteers at the hospital have to be vaccinated at this point?
Yes, they do.
Are we losing our sound? I'm sorry, Kim, we didn't hear you.
Oh, yes, they do. They are required to be vaccinated with 2 doses.
Oh. So all the COVID protocols are still in place?
Yes, they are the same for staff and volunteers.
Well, and that just enhances the health and well-being of patients as well.
That's right. Yes, we want to protect everybody. A lot of people that are coming in here are sick, so we want healthy people to be taking care of them.
Oh, okay. So each area in the hospital has, a specific role, like imaging and diagnostic and oncology and things like that. Is there any sort of medical tips that volunteers need to know for that specific area?
No, there isn't. We don't require you don't have to have any kind of medical background or anything. We do all of the training. Now, we have a student program where students come and volunteer for the summer, and that's actually a great learning experience for them. They get to know the area that they're volunteering, and we're hoping that maybe they'll come back to us and be employed with us down the road if they get used to the hospital environment and see different areas, and something maybe piques their interest to go through schooling.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Well, we certainly need more broad range medical staff in our communities. We do have a bit of a deficit in need of, doctors and nurses and all the other components that make up a safe hospital environment. Because we must acknowledge that all the support staff within the hospital is absolutely essential as well. When you have your cleaners and your food services, and I'm sure your maintenance and that sort of thing, all those folks are essential to running a hospital.
Oh, absolutely. We couldn't do it without everybody doing their part, for sure.
And so with National Volunteer Week coming up, have you anything specifically planned for your volunteers?
I do. A lot of the time we've had a luncheon and brought all of the hospital volunteers together. But with COVID, that's put a damper on it for the last 2 years. And when you're doing something like that, it takes a lot of planning, and I've been, wavering over what to do, but I decided this year that I would do a drive-through event. So I'm going to each hospital during Volunteer Week, and people can come through with their vehicles and pick up a swag bag. And if they are hitting a milestone year, then they get to get their certificate and pin as well. So I think everybody will feel comfortable with that, because I know everybody has different levels of comfort with COVID and whether they want to eat with people or take off their mask or whatnot. So this way they'll be in their own vehicle and I'll be outside, and there'll be horn honking and staff there to greet them. And
that's a great idea, Kim. That's a great idea. And yeah, I'm sure you'll have lots of significant dates with a base of 700 people. You're going to have lots of anniversaries every year. My goodness. Well, we thank you so much for coming on to talk to us about the volunteers at the hospitals, at the local hospitals. And if we've inspired anybody out there to join up and do some volunteering, they could just go into whatever hospital is their local hospital.
yes, or they can submit an application online as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Kim. We hope you have a very smooth volunteer week, National Volunteer Week. And
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
I'm Cal Ewens, defenseman with Owen Sound Attack. Go behind the scenes with your favorite team on Attack Craft every Tuesday on Rogers TV.
welcome back to Grey County Life, and it's Charlie's favorite favorite segment on the show, Adorable Adoptables with Renee. And oh my gosh, look who we've got as guests this week, Charlie. Who are these fine feathered friends?
We don't have a lot of budgies very often, and today's the day. We have two, they're actually baby budgies, only 5 months of age. Apparently one is a male, one is a female. I'm not an expert bird person. I kind of think they're both males, but I can't promise anything in that area.
How long, Renee, if somebody was to take both budgies home, how long would it be before we knew for sure whether or not they were going to be making any babies?
Well, if I can be honest with you, what I was always told is the best way to figure this out is actually by the colors of their beak. And a male budgie has a blue beak and a female budgie has a pink beak. Figure that out. Blue booties, pink booties. Now,
who planned that, right?
Exactly. I mean, who knew nature knew that? Both of these budgies appear to me to have a blue tinge to their beaks. One of them, however, is more blue than the other. So I can tell you for sure one of them is in fact a male. I would assume that if the other budgie's beak, that's a tongue twister, was changing, I had to be very careful with that, was going to change color, I would assume it would be very soon. Now, I'm not sure how easily budgies reproduce in captivity. I've always been under the impression that's a bit of a challenge. So you may not have reproducing budgies in any case. Again, I'm not a bird expert. I know the basics, and that's really about it. I have owned birds in my lifetime, so I know a little bit from an owner's perspective, but I have never tried to have them reproduce, nor have I ever tried to make them not reproduce. So I don't know. Now, these two little guys, I'm going to zoom in on them one more time here. Again, just babies, and have been raised in a home. They are hand raised, and what that means is you can let them sit on your shoulder, they'll sit on your hand, and they'll go for walks with you in the house. We did have an exciting experience with that yesterday here at the animal shelter, which is why I'm not doing it today.
Oh, I wish we could be a fly on the wall for that, Renee.
They arrived not in this cage, so we had to get them in there. They did sit for a little while on our hand. I wouldn't say it's something you should do in a building filled with cats in any case. It worked out okay. Thank goodness it worked out okay.
Budgies to adopt out.
That's right. These budgies are bonded, and we do want them to go home together. Budgies are a very social little creature, and they do enjoy company. And believe me when I say that if you only have one budgie, you're going to hear a lot more from that budgie because it's lonely and needs some interaction. Budgies are a parakeet. They can be taught to speak. They can be taught to sing songs, although they're not, sorry guys, the smartest of the birds. So that does take a little bit of work. And you know what? If you are somebody who's so inclined to spend some time doing that, by all means, have at her. Let's see what you can do. These two budgies, again, here they are. The life expectancy of a budgie is about 8 to 10 years. So they're not a really, really short-term commitment. You get a little bit longer with them maybe than a fish or some pockets.
On that, yeah.
And in saying that, you have to be prepared, though, that you could get a little bit of time with them. So there's nothing worse, of course, for people who adopt these guys thinking they're only going to have a year or two and then not being sure what to do with them. So certainly keep that in mind. these two little guys, here they are again. Hi again. They're enjoying the show. Came to us as a known surrender because they were purchased as a gift for someone, and that someone wasn't ready for that gift. So I want to make a message as a reminder on their behalf that it's a really bad idea to do that for people without checking with them first. Dogs, cats, budgies, rabbits, guinea pigs, the whole works, they're all pets. They do require love and affection and attention for a period of time, and it's not something that somebody should make on someone else's behalf. So don't do that or they'll end up homeless. Here they are again. Hi.
Yeah.
Well, they come with the cage and the food and a whole kit to get them started, to get a family started.
They sure do. The cage that we have at the shelter is the one they'll go with. I'll zoom out a little bit so we can see it. It is not a really big cage. I mean, I'm sure they'd be happier in a much bigger one, but as a temporarily place to put them until you figure that out, it's totally fine. These budgies, I should mention, do not have their wings clipped. They do have the ability to fly. The reason I mention that, I have a bird at home and I have left his wings unclipped because I have pets in the home, and it's in the event of a catastrophe, I know he can get away from them. They are, again, hand raised. So this will allow them perhaps to fly throughout your home and return to the cage in the evening. It's a really nice thing that people can do with their birds. And in that case, they won't need a bigger cage. This would be their cage for sleeping in. Your home would, in essence, then be their cage. So certainly something to consider. I mean, and some people go way out of their way and build big outdoor enclosures for summertime. I mean, you could go crazy with it if you wanted to. Just keep in mind that this is a very small enclosure. Here it is again. And although they're happy in it for now, they don't have a lot of opportunity to exercise and stretch their wings, which they still need to do, even if you get those wings clipped. They still need to stretch them. They're sitting here so quietly. They were making so much noise before the show. Now they're just sitting silently. Yeah, it's okay.
They might be smarter than you think, Renee.
That's right. Then nobody wants a squawking bird, right?
Yeah. Now I do need to check in on those two little kitten brothers that you had last week, which were so adorable.
They were. They are gone home. Thank goodness. And the better part to that story, they didn't go together, but they both went to homes with other cats. So that worked out very well because they've got a buddy. And the better part to that story is their mama is now spayed and has a potential adoption too. So we're super excited about that. Because of course we always think about mama. We feel terrible when we take babies from her, and we feel even more terrible that she has to sit and wait, and she's not going to. So it's a great story.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Renee. We can't wait to see where the budgies end up, and we will be back next week with more Grey County life at home and the adorable Adoptables.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
As the fighting continues in Ukraine, thousands of people are fleeing for their lives, forced to leave everything behind. You can help them. Your donation to the Humanitarian Coalition will provide food, water, shelter,